everybody, this is SaberX coming to you live with a brand new video review, and I apologize if this one is a little late, but today we are going to be looking at the 1/18th scale Beasts of the Mesozoic Tyrannosaur series Suskityrannus hazelae figure. So without further ado, here we are. There it is, and before we take a look at this incredible toy, let's take a look at the packaging for it, shall we? So, here we are with the Suskityrannus hazelae packaging, which you can see has this beautiful, beautiful artwork on the cover by Raul Ramos. And of course, inside the diorama, you also can see the backdrop image that you can take out and place behind the figure as a diorama, if you so choose to. And of course, on the back, you get information about this particular Tyrannosaur, as well as the obligatory product shot, and yeah, a list of all the other Wave 2 Tyrannosaurs in this toy line. So, there you have that. Now, inside the box, we also get a collector's card to go with the toy. And this is beautiful. Again, the art is by Raul Ramos, who is one of multiple artists who contributed to the Tyrannosaur line. And of course, on the back, you get a shot of the figure, as well as any information about this particular dinosaur. Now, along with the figure itself and this card, you also get the ever important, absolutely necessary instructions. So, yeah, the instructions absolutely are required if you want to keep from breaking your toy by accident. And trust me, you do not want that to happen. This is a very small figure with very delicate little joints, including ball joints. So, yeah, definitely not something you want to have happen to your toy. Especially since this is as much a collector's item as it is a toy. And I highly recommend when you pop the tail in, I highly recommend if you pop the tail into the body, you use heat, in my recommendation, a hairdryer, or perhaps hot water, your choice, but I recommend the hairdryer above anything else because it is the most efficient and, it worked the most often. So, yeah, hairdryer to warm up the joints and soften them enough that you can pop the tail in, and of course the heat from a hairdryer is also sufficient to help you soften the joints enough so that you can move it without potentially risking your toy's joints breaking on other parts of the body if the joints are stiff. But yeah. Now, in addition to the instructions as well, you get these. And zooming in on these, these are the tiny little toes that also come with it as spare sets of feet. Now, there are mid-step toes, and then there are closed running toes, which you can use. And you can actually just pop them off the figure. Pop the main feet off the figure, and pop these on if you so choose to. I personally don't, because I don't feel it's necessary for this figure. It is just, it's just so small, I don't want to risk it. But I also believe that, this figure looks fine as it is. But going back to the figure itself, you also get with the figure, of course, this beautiful diorama stand, which we will have a look at in a minute. But for the stand itself, you also get this clear translucent cradle, and of course a smaller one in case you want to stand it up on the display itself. I personally just like to have them stand on the ground and then just kind of lean into it. But to each their own. Now, moving on to the figure and the diorama base. Let's start with the diorama base first. It's this beautiful forest floor color, and yeah, it's pretty much identical to those with Proceratosaurus and Guanlong, which is, I guess, typical for the smaller tyrannosaurs, but it looks very, very nice, and it's a different color than either of those. And yeah, I have to say, the color scheme in this case really works for it. I absolutely love it because it reminds me of where they filmed When Dinosaurs Roamed America, which is something I will talk about later in the video because that has everything to do with Suskityrannus. But moving on to the figure itself, take a look at this. This is one of the coolest little tyrannosaurs ever discovered, and it was only named like about 4 or 5 years ago. Now, Suskityrannus actually has a long history, but again, we'll go into that later. Yeah, the color scheme is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the coloration itself is based off an osprey, which is one of my favorite birds of prey. It is a fish-eating raptor, which is yeah, pretty much found on all continents and is itself pretty ancient. But it absolutely works for this figure. I mean, the red eyes, the inside of the mouth, the coloration along the tail, all those bands, the underbelly, and the feet, it just works so well for this. And honestly, thinking back to all of that, thinking back to all those documentaries that Suskityrannus has appeared in without ever being called by its actual name now, before it was described, I can't imagine it looking any other way. I literally see this figure, well, the dinosaur with this figure, color scheme, I should say. Yeah, I just see it with this color scheme every time I imagine it in those documentaries. But yeah, articulation-wise, this figure has about 20 points of articulation. He's got opening and closing jaws, like so. His neck can move right, left, up, and down, about that much. And I honestly like his neck like that. The arms can do a full 360, though I don't recommend it because of the way they bow out when you do that. But yeah, you can flip these around. And he does have wrist swivel, which is not natural for a dinosaur. But he also has in and out movement of his hands like so. And yeah, he also has bending elbows, which go about that far out, that far in. And of course, you get some shoulder pivot as well. The legs can also do a full 360, but I don't recommend it, of course, and I'm not going to do it, but he can move his legs a full 360 if you so choose to. I don't know why you would, though, but yeah, the knee can also bend about that far back, that far forward, and the ankle also can move up about that far forward, down about that far back, because these do have limits. And then, yeah, the feet also have ball joints in them so that they can swivel and move back and forward. Now, I don't really like to move the feet very much because this figure does have some trouble standing up on his own. He can do it, and I get mine to do that, but yeah, he does have some trouble with it, so I try not to do it too much. Now his tail can also move about this far to the right at the base, this far to the left at the base, up and down like so, and of course there's wire in the tail, so you can actually pose him any way you want to. So there you have that. Now hopefully he'll stand up still, and of course he does not want to cooperate. Come on. Okay, come on now. And just to be safe, I'm going to put that in front of him like so. Now, Suskityrannus is actually a pretty cool small tyrannosaur. It lived about 95 million years ago in what is now New Mexico in the Zuni Basin. And yeah, there are a few dinosaurs known from there, but not a lot is understood about the formation at this time. There's only like 4 or 5 different dinosaurs known from it at present, but Suskityrannus is one of these. Now, interestingly enough, yeah, when it was originally found, the 2 specimens that are known were once thought to be a dromaeosaur, a raptor dinosaur, and a basal coelurosaur, because they didn't have enough pieces at the time to understand what they were looking at. But as they looked deeper at the skeleton, as they looked more closely at the skeleton, they found that it was in fact a tyrannosaur, but they didn't have a name for it at the time. So yeah, it was informally nicknamed as Suskityrannus, and as a result, it has been seen as a basal coelurosaur, or a raptor, and a tyrannosaur in popular culture. In this case, as the raptor and basal coelurosaur in When Dinosaurs Roamed America, and as Suskityrannus in Planet Dinosaur. So, yeah, interesting little bit of history. Now, the other cool thing about Suskityrannus is that it is contemporary with Zuniceratops, which is also from the Zuni Basin. These animals probably never really got into conflict with one another unless absolutely necessary, because the cow-sized Zuniceratops was probably more than a match for a single Suskityrannus hunting alone. Now, Suskityrannus is not very large. It's about the size of a gray wolf, so like 88 to 100 pounds, perhaps, for a very large one. We know that the specimens that have been found are not fully grown, but yeah, it probably could get large enough that it could perhaps go after a Zuniceratops, or at least a young one. But nobody's quite sure how big it actually got. Right now, the current measurements suggest a length of like 8 to 10 feet. So, not the biggest tyrannosaur, but it definitely was one of the smarter animals of its time. Analysis of its brain case suggests that it was much more intelligent than other predators that might have been roaming around. And it also would have been living alongside the Therizinosaur Nothronicus. And yeah, just incredible. Yeah, it's just an incredible dinosaur. And honestly, the Zuni formation, well, the Zuni Basin's dinosaur fauna is very poorly understood at this time, and I really hope we get to learn more about it. There could be a whole range of different animals there that we've never seen before. And honestly, I think exploring it would reveal many new animals that also probably live there. Yeah, so that's that. moving on to some comparisons with these, with other figures in the Beasts of the Mesozoic toy line, let's compare him to the Zuniceratops that lived alongside him. So there we have our comparisons. Now this figure is about 8 inches long, the Suskityrannus, the Coyote Tyrant, and the Zuniceratops is a little over 6 to 7 inches long. So they're close to the same size. Suskityrannus is a little bit longer, but as you can see, Zuniceratops is much bigger in regards to weight and heft. It's a much larger dinosaur in general, and these are to scale with one another. These animals are about the same size that you would see, hey, in the real animals. But yeah, there is no way, unless it hunted in packs, that a Suskityrannus could probably take down a Zuniceratops. Now, moving on, let's compare him to some other tyrannosaurs within the toy line. Here he is compared to Guanlong Luwu Kai, which is another tyrannosaur in the same toy line. And as you can see, oh dear, I hate when that happens. Oh dear, dear, dear. Oh dear, dear, dear. That's the one problem with these figures. They don't stand up well on fabric. They stand up well on wood, but not fabric. But yeah, here's Guanlong and Suskityrannus together. And as you can see, they're about the same size. I mean, Guanlong looks a little bigger, but not by much, and that just might be because of the angle I'm looking at it at. But, yeah, definitely definitely to scale with one another, so in the 8 to 10 foot range for the real animals. Now, here it is with Proceratosaurus bradleyi, which is another close relative and the earliest known tyrannosaur. So, there you have them. Yeah. And, yeah, you can see these dinosaurs are pretty much about the same size. It might not look it because of the angle of the camera, but they are. And, yeah. Yeah, they're really not that much different in regards to size. But, yeah, Proceratosaurus is, I think, just slightly taller. But that may be, again, because, yeah, because of the crest around the head. And this little ruff. Now, let's compare him to a slightly bigger Tyrannosaur, a 12-inch figure. So here he is with one of my personal favorites from Wave 2. Here he is with Xianzhusaurus. As you can see, Xianzhusaurus is absolutely, yeah, it's absolutely much bigger than, yeah, than Suskityrannus. Yeah, there's really not much of a comparison there in regards to size. Yeah, it's like twice the length and, yeah, much heavier. And again, these are to scale with one another. Now, I'm not going to bring out T-Rex to share with you for this one, because it's just so big and awkward that I feel it's not necessary to do it unless it's for the big ones. But here it is with the Tyrannus hazelae, which is much larger. This is another 1/18 scale Tyrannosaur. And as you can see, this 16-inch figure is much, much bigger. It is, yeah, it's gigantic compared to the Suskityrannus. But yeah, absolutely incredible. Now, Suskityrannus is not the most expensive figure to get for the Beast of the Mesozoic toy line. It is about $40, and yeah, I felt it was definitely worth getting. I mean, it may be small, but this is a very cool, very small little Tyrannosaur that basically was a harbinger of things to come. And yeah, if you really want to showcase one of the more unusual Tyrannosaurs that's been discovered very recently, or if you just want something, if you just want something relatively cheap and small to add to your collection, this is definitely one of them. It's, yeah, it is well worth the time and energy to buy. Well worth your money. It certainly was for me, and I got it at pre-order price on BackerKit, but yeah, you can get it for about $40 now, which is not a bad deal for a toy like this. But I can't recommend it enough. It is definitely one of my favorites, and perhaps my absolute favorite of the small Tyrannosaurs, with Proceratosaurus probably coming in close. But anyway, this is SaberX signing off saying, you're never too old to play with toys, be a toy nerd, be proud of it, and never stop playing. Thank you, and have a good evening. And good night, everyone. Bye-bye.